Hey, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'll be your host today, Jim. It's just you and me hanging out. As we approach 1,000 episodes, it's a good time to point out that over the past several years, as we've recorded hundreds and hundreds of shows, like I said, approaching 1,000, a couple things stand out before we jump into today's content. One is this is the only show, to my knowledge, that has interviewed hundreds of students who are succeeding following the strategies taught on the podcast. That, to me, from my vantage point, is the greatest validation, the greatest proof that you could ever ask for or get that the ideas work. Our Facebook group, as I'm recording this, is also approaching 80,000 members, a very transparent forum where people come, they discuss the challenges, the wins, the hurdles, the opportunities that they're facing in their business, the pivots, the relationships that form there, all these conversations any given day. A great place to be. We've got 2,500 plus success stories posted in that group as well. Again, very validating of the fact that the things we teach around here, the things we talk about around here constantly, there's huge potential there. I saw a post recently in that same Facebook group. Someone popped in. I would credit them if I had it in front of me. I apologize. But you can see this data all over the place online yourself as well. And basically was showing all the different business sectors in the United States and their projected growth or shrinkage over the next, say, I think it was 5 to 10 years, something like that. There was one huge bubble that dwarfed all other bubbles. And it was the projected growth of e-commerce. That's right, the sector that we're in. The topic of this podcast, the reason that this podcast exists, the reason our community exists in this particular niche opportunity is because the growth prospects are so big and beautiful. This isn't a podcast about how to set up a dog grooming shop in your local small town. Now, a lot of the business principles that we talk about in the show will apply regardless of your business, but we spend all of our time talking about e-commerce. Why is that? It's because, from my perspective as a dad who spent 22 years being able to work from home, be with our family, homeschool our kids, have a flexible lifestyle, base our decisions throughout the day on things like the weather and what opportunities might be coming our way off season. We're able to go places when kids are in school, that kind of thing. We just built this flexible lifestyle and we funded it very well with e-commerce. I've said often on this show, I'm able to put my business in my pocket. I'm holding up my cell phone, take it with us wherever we want to go. If we leave town for 3 weeks, if we travel, we're on the road, that's fine. All I need is access to the internet and I've got multiple income streams. I want that for other people. That's the kind of thing we talk about on our show. Maybe you just need a few extra $100 a week. We've got some ideas that'll be great for you. Maybe you want to go bigger than that, replace a career. Well, it takes a little bit of time, but it's absolutely possible as well. And we've seen it, again, countless times in our community. People have built amazing businesses and left their careers to pursue multiple income streams using the internet creatively. Typically, we start people out in the same place, and that is on Amazon with one specific model. There's dozens of ways to make money on Amazon, but there's one particular model that we're the most excited about, and that's what we teach to pretty much all of our new students. Now, if you want to spend some extended time going through these ideas, more time than what I have to cover them today, you really should go through the Silent Sales Machine book. And that's right. It's not just the name of a podcast. It started out as a book, and that book is in version 11 now. We're still giving it away completely free, although it has sold 1 million copies and has thousands of 5-star reviews on Amazon. We're giving it away, the latest version, free. Go to silentjim.com/free11 to get instructions on how to get it completely free, no obligation. There's no shipping and handling charge. It's an instant download. We just want to get it into your hands and then leave you alone, and you can let us know what you think of the content. But it's based on the 20 years of success, not only in my business, not only on the 60 coaches on our team or the 100 leaders and content contributors and consultants who we work with around here, but the thousands of students who've come through this community and built beautiful businesses, shared their stories, the combined lessons, the things we've learned. And that's what I'm going to go through today, briefly, but hopefully in a way that's very beneficial to you. And you can start to see some timeless lessons that have emerged out of studying all those students. If you may not be aware that we have the longest running e-commerce coaching program in the world. We've been doing it, to my knowledge, longer than anyone else, 22 years of e-commerce coaching. That's 10,000 approximately students just in our coaching program that have come through. That's a lot of people for us to watch, to learn from, to engage with, to watch them either rise or fall, to fade out, or to go on to do great things, to become household brand names in some cases. It's an incredible arsenal of case studies that we've been able to look at. And you combine that with my dedication for the last 15 years or so to find biblical truths for business based on thousands of year-old principles that have been known for way before any of us were around. Business in many ways has never changed, and it never will change. And there's a lot of strategic, let's say, what's this word I'm looking for? Strategic advantages that you can get regardless of your worldview if you apply these timeless human nature strategies to your business. So a combination of a large sample size of success stories plus a commitment to looking at these thousands of year old principles and looking through that lens, well, it's helped me shape a top 10 list today that I believe would be at least the top 10 of, if let's say I had 20 principles I was going to share with you, most of these would be within the top 5, top 10, kind of like very important things that I want to share. If your goal is to build a very flexible e-commerce lifestyle, multiple streams of income, and you want to do it over a sustained period of time. So the title of today's show, I haven't titled it quite yet. It'll be something like Building Sustainable Income Using the Internet Creatively over an extended period of time. What are the rules? What are the rules for making that happen? I've seen a lot of people fail. I've seen a lot of people succeed. What do they have in common? How can you avoid the failures, embrace the success, maintain over a long term? Let's get into it. I think it'll make more sense as I jump into the list. But that's my goal for you. I want you to experience what I and so many others in our community and so many others have enjoyed using the internet as a multiple income stream tool. Well, you got to start with something proven, steady, and low risk. Don't start off, and I'll cover this more later, pursuing your passions, for example. Start off instead with a proven, low-risk model that has a bright future, something that you can ease into nice and slow, where there's absolutely no way that you could lose a ton of money because you're wading in nice and slow and you're testing, which is something else we'll talk about in a moment. But that's rule number one. Start with something steady, proven, and low risk, which is why in our community, you hear us talk so much about the Amazon replens model. And if something better comes along to replace that, that is steady and low risk, that you can wade into at your own pace without any risk at all. If you're listening to us, there's zero risk, literally zero risk of you losing a large amount of money. It just can't happen because you're buying a handful of units at a time of products that are, by all indications, or the tool that we teach you to use, the demand is way bigger than the supply on these products. And there's people willing to pay more than they're paying right now for these products on Amazon. And as a reminder, if you're new around here, Amazon gets about half of all economic activity online any given day. And it, like I mentioned earlier, e-commerce is the exploding, emerging marketplace of our lifetimes. So if you look at the biggest opportunity of our lifetimes, who's the biggest player in that arena? Amazon. They get about half the activity, like I said. And of their hundreds of warehouses, there are millions of products right now that just aren't adequately stocked once you learn how to read the data. So you're buying a couple units at a time, you're sending them in, you're waiting for them to sell. Your worst case scenario, if you've done your research even, with a 10% effort, your worst case scenario is going to be approximately break even when the product sells. The best case scenario is you're going to be making some nice money. It's a great way to wade into the opportunity. And we've seen people build multiple 7-figure businesses with just that model. Now, one of the rules of having multiple income streams is you don't settle for one income stream. Now, you don't want to try to launch 10 income streams the same day. That's not reasonable. It's not feasible. Human nature is not designed to absorb that kind of change and that kind of pace of chaos. So we never suggest that. We want you to bolt down systems. And once it's profitable, then you start looking at other income streams that are related. Ideally that both complement the income stream that's already rolling and are separate so that they're not dependent on each other. Complementing without being dependent on each other is perfect. That's what you want to add on. And I'll give you some examples of that. You can see it in our curriculum. One of the best examples might be you've got your healthy replen business going and you're selling random widgets to strangers on Amazon, but one of those brands kind of emerges as, hey, I think these guys might need some help. I'm going to reach out and contact them. Hey, I'm selling your products on Amazon, but I noticed you got kind of an ugly catalog here. You got way too many sellers on your stuff. I was actually starting to move away from selling your product because the price is just tanked and it's being abused by so many sellers who don't know what they're doing. Do you want someone to manage that for you? Right? So it's a very natural, organic conversation you have with them. You launch their Amazon account. Now you're helping them manage their own brand, and you're able to do it because you're an experienced seller. You see how that works? So the doors of opportunity kind of open naturally and organically, but you got to be paying attention and you got to be building relationships, which is another one of our keys today that I'm going to cover as well. But you start with something slow, steady, with very low risk to get your confident. So you're earning while you're learning. That's why we love the Amazon replens model. Do we see it as the only model you'll ever need? Absolutely not. We've never taught that. For over 20 years, I've been a multiple income stream guy. Now, that's not to say there isn't people right now, many, many people in our community with multiple seven-figure businesses doing just that one model very successfully, very excited about the future. It's got a very bright future. But one of the foundational concepts that I talk about in the Silent Sales Machine book tells you how to get it. Remember, silentjim.com/free11 gets you a free copy of that book, free 11 as in version 11. One of the things I talk about in there is if you're going to be building your business online, leveraging the platforms of the big boys, I'm talking about YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, as I'm recording this just a couple of days ago, went down. Everyone was freaking out, all the people who were using TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. I actually made a post about it on my personal Facebook page and hey, it doesn't affect me. I actually could argue one way or the other for it, kind of having some fun with the topic. Some people were devastated that TikTok had gone down. They were freaking out, losing their minds. Well, if you're going to play on these big boy platforms like Facebook, eBay, Walmart.com, where you can sell as a third-party seller, Amazon, YouTube, any of them, Instagram, the terms of service that you've agreed to when you sign up for those has somewhere typically on page 47 of the terms of service that no one ever reads. It says something like, hey, if one day we decide we don't like you and we delete your account, you can't sue us. Just go away. There's no recourse legally. You signed up for that. So if they're going to ask us to sign up with that as part of the agreement, that they can delete us without recourse at any moment in time, hey, you know what's going to be really smart for you to do over time is to diversify. And that's one of the secrets of multiple income streams. Now, you don't start out diversifying day one. You build systems that are producing results. You automate those systems. Maybe it's a virtual assistant from the Philippines that runs the day-to-day, like my friend Kang, who built literally the system that automates the replens system that we teach around here. If you haven't heard of that, go check out two things: podcast episode 754. You'll absolutely love it. And silentjim.com/the system. You're going to absolutely love what you see there. But he built a $3 million plus replens business selling boring items to underserved shelf space at Amazon's warehouses. And he completely automated it with some software. But he built a system that allowed him to step back. He had a virtual assistant running the day-to-day. He had someone in his warehouse handling the packages. He stepped back, took trips 2-3 weeks at a time with family, would check his stats, completely automated the whole thing. That's what I mean by building a system. It frees up your time. One of the questions I have, that's point number 9. We're on number 1. I'll go a little faster here in a minute, but when we get to number 9, it's only do the things that only you can do. That's how you build multiple income streams. But let's move on from point number 1. If you're ready to get started, get into the Proven Amazon course. ProvenAmazonCourse.com. That's where we have dozens of Amazon models that will teach you, but the one we start you out with, we start everyone here, unless you have a really, really good reason not to start here, we start you off with the lowest risk, lowest learning curve, lowest amount of money required. You're not going to lose a bunch of money doing this system. It's impossible to lose a bunch of money with this system with the highest odds of success, and it's a nice on-ramp into so many other great opportunities. It's called the Amazon Replen system. That's what we suggest you start with. That's rule number 1 of having multiple income streams, is start with something steady, consistent, low risk, proven, time-tested with a bright future. There's nothing that compares to the one I've just given you. Proven Amazon course. Get into it. Get started there. Okay, what's next? Number 2, I think the way that the internet changed things, there's just a few ways that the internet changed the world and of business in general, and I've got ample evidence that this is true. But one of them is the definition of business failure is no longer as scary as it used to be. It just doesn't need to be. Actually, you need to embrace failure now. What I mean by that is, before the internet, a business failure was a big deal. It meant someone had lost a lot of money. You didn't fail small in business. To fail small meant you never had a chance anyway. Now you can fail small as often as you want. I'm talking little experiments. Here's an example. If you knock on 3 or 4 neighborhood people's door in your neighborhood today, the people you know, and like, hey, just want to let you know I'm starting to sell stuff online. If you got anything you don't need anymore, I'll list it on Facebook Marketplace and we'll split the money. Just let me know if you want. I'll clean out the garage and maybe there's some treasures in there and we can make a little money together. Just let me know if you're interested. What did that cost you? A little uncomfortableness of a conversation, perhaps. That could be $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 in your pocket over the next 2, 3, 5 months if you're willing to do the work, and it's not hard work to do. So what did you put at risk there? Nothing. An uncomfortable conversation, perhaps. What's the upside? A lot of money in your pocket. Now, I'm not suggesting you go make a living with that model. There's a lot of churn there. There's a lot of conversations. One of the reasons all of the eBay pop-up shops, you remember those guys in the early 2000s? People, hey, we'll sell your stuff for you on eBay. Selling other people's stuff on consignment gets ugly fast, typically, because people want to talk about their junk and they want to talk about it as if it's worth a whole lot more than anyone else thinks it's worth. And you get into these just long conversations and debates over what people were hoping to get for their junk. That's a waste of time. It's a hard model. But if you have no cash, no capital, and you're willing to do a little bit of work, you can make some money with that model. And there's a host of other examples I could give you. But the point I'm making is you want to be trying new things often, especially if you're in a low cash, desperate mode. Fail often, try new things often. The Proven Amazon course that I just mentioned, all in. If you've got an extra $500 to $1,000, that's all you need to get started, give it a shot. Get proof of concept. See if you want to go deeper. Now, you're not going to become a millionaire starting off with those low numbers in a year or two, but you can certainly see a nice turnover on your money. On the low end, 10% net return. So you start with 1,000, you flip it once, you got 1,100. You flip it again, flip it again, flip it again. Pretty soon, within a year or so, you flipped it 6 or 7 times, you've doubled your money with this side gig part-time thing. Maybe you start with more than 1,000. We don't want you to start with a whole lot more than that because we want you to get proof of concept as you go, unless you've got more money to put at risk, which is a big advantage in business, of course, but we don't want you taking big risks ever. On the upside potential, the net margins on the strategies we teach can be a whole lot more than that, but conservatively speaking, you can do really well with just a little bit of money. Get proof of concept, get your confidence. But the point I'm making with point number 2 is you want to be failing, testing, trying, failing constantly. Just because you found something that works, don't drill 100 miles deep on just that. Make it a system. Don't make it your full-time gig. Turn it into a system and explore other opportunities. A lot of successful Amazon sellers in our community right now, for example, are starting to experiment on Walmart. You can sell as a third-party seller on Walmart. That's diversifying, using your same skill set, a complementary business model that doesn't distract you away from what's already working, but it also builds a new stream that's isolated from any negative things that might happen to the first stream. So they're divided, they're separated, right? So it's multiple income streams. If one gets hurt, it doesn't impact or draw down the other one to zero. That's the beauty and benefit of multiple income streams, right? So fail often, take big risks. Our culture tells us failure is a bad thing. You've got to start thinking of failure as a good thing. I cover this in the Silent Sales Machine book in depth. Go listen to it. I spend a lot more time on that topic, and I think it will really start to adjust the way you see business opportunity. That's the way the internet changed the world, is it made failure something to be embraced because it were small tests where your failures cost you just a few dollars and a little bit of your time, but you're trying great new ideas constantly. If you're not doing that, you're missing out on the way that e-commerce has changed forever, the way business is done. Next, number 3, which may be way too high on the list for some people's taste. I'm not going to take it too deep on this one, but relationships will make or break your business. If I needed to project your forecast to succeed in business, like 5 years from now, will you be successful in e-commerce? There's only one question I need to ask you, and I'll be able to project with extreme accuracy if you're going to make it or not. And there's very few exceptions to this. After having, again, thousands and thousands of students come through our community, it's not competence or grit or drive. It's not the willingness to change new things, the willingness to learn new things. All those things are important. Those are all elements. Here's the one question I would ask you. Do you have a system in place for building relationships with people in the e-commerce community? Are you intentional about it? Are you pursuing relationships, pursuing masterminds, attending events, going out of your way to help others and to seek the help that you need, adding to the list of names of people who know, like, and trust you? Are you doing that? Yes or no? It's a box you check. Yes or no? Is there an intentional system in place? Yes or no? If the answer is no, you are not a safe bet. If you were a stock, I would not buy it. I don't care how smart and driven and motivated and up to date and interested in trying new things you are. If you're not committed to relationships, you're probably going to fail at some point miserably, and there's going to be no one there to pick you up. That's a biblical principle. It's a common sense principle. It makes sense, doesn't it? If, however, you're committed to relationships, you can be weak in a whole lot of other areas, and you're going to be able to make up for it very easily because you're going to know who to call. You're going to have someone that's got your back. You will have been helping someone else on their journey. You have a great mindset. You're the kind of person that people like to be around. You're building relationships intentionally. You're going to do great. And I've seen it time and time again. I'm not going to dwell on it. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to, but I've seen it play out over and over and over again. Speaking of events, speaking of getting to know people, come to our event in Orlando at the end of May of 2025, the last 3 days, the 29th, 30th, and 31st of May. Come to Orlando, Florida. Here's the details on this website, theprovenconference.com. You want to be there. Hundreds of listeners to this show were there last year. We're going to have a great group again this year. You want to come? That's a great way to start to be intentional about your relationships. And we're very intentional about it at the event. And it's not just about saying, oh, I've got some friends now. That's not it, although that's a very healthy thing. And our culture tends to isolate us. But there's a synergy that kicks in when you're doing life with other people within arm's reach. There's an accountability. There's an encouragement. You know, we are not built for isolation. My wife and I watched a movie just the other day where this guy was losing his mind slowly, and you didn't know if he was seeing things or not, and you didn't know if he was by himself or not. And he was isolated. It comes to find out, like, he's by himself in this scenario, and he was just going nuts. It was a compelling sci-fi, right, that really drew you in. But we all know instinctually, isolation is deadly. Isolation is scary. Psychologically, you can be broken. That's how we broke the most hardened criminals. And that's how we break, our enemy combatants in military engagements, to isolate them. But we do it ourselves in business. So what's the opposite of doing that? Being intentional about relationships, reaching out. I'm not talking about messages on Facebook. I'm talking about conversations, or better yet, in person live. That will propel your business further, faster than anything else that you can do. I'm going to move through the rest of this list a little faster. Forgive me, I get passionate about these topics. Let's move on to number 4. Multiple streams are necessary. We've kind of hinted at this one already. Remember why I said multiple streams are necessary? If you're playing on the big boy platforms where they've got buried on page 40-something of their terms of service that they could delete you tomorrow and there's no recourse, sure, you could go complain publicly. You could post something nasty on Facebook. You could argue with the world about how unfair it all is. Or you can build multiple income streams. Why not? Why not diversify? Now, when I say multiple streams are necessary, keep in mind, there's a few lessons here. Someone asked me at an event one time, it's like, Jim, you talk about all those income streams that you have. Aren't you running around like crazy? No, I'm building systems. I'm not the guy spinning all the plates. I get the plates spinning. I get it proven in my mind that this is a viable system. It's profitable. Then I hand off to someone else, point number 9, to reference that again, so that I'm only doing the things that only I can do, which at the end of the day isn't a very large list. It's just not. You can hand it off to someone else. Share some of the profits with that someone else. We live in a day and age where just about everything that you do, if it's profitable at all, could be done by someone that you pay $3 or $4 an hour in the Philippines to completely automate and manage. If it's not profitable enough to pay someone $3 or $4 an hour to management, it's not profitable. It's not a system worth running. You shouldn't be running it yourself. But you turn it over to them, you turn it over to someone else to handle the moving parts, and you step back and do the things that only you can do. Multiple income streams are necessary, but you don't start there. You build one system, you bolt it down, you automate it, you secure it, and then you build complementary but distinct other streams of income. Next, number 5, there's always, 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 without exception, there is always a way to pivot around, through, over, under any challenge that hits you. It doesn't matter what it is. You've got to imagine, if you put yourself in my shoes for a moment, we've got a community, 80,000 people in our Facebook group, right? A large email list, a lot of students, a lot of coaches, a lot of people doing life and doing business. Any given day, I'm going to hear a small handful of disaster, scary stories of people freaking out, something bad's happened. And on the same day, it's really an interesting vantage point. People saying, oh my goodness, I just got to quit my job. My wife and I have never been loving life more. We've got 2 income streams now, thanks to this community. It took us 2 years to get here. We're thrilled. The kids are now home. We're homeschooling, and we wouldn't have been able to do it before. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like in the same day, a barrage of both, right? But what I've noticed is the people who are freaking out and panicking tend, if they've got the right mindset and they've built relationships and they've been paying attention to the things we teach around here, they understand pivot is just part of the game. You're always learning new things. You're always trying new things. Some things fail. Sometimes even the things that are working really well start to wind down or take a pause for a week or 2 and freak you out, kind of like the TikTok thing, right? It's just a few days. People were losing their minds, and then it was all back and okay. At least that's the perception of what I think is going to happen there. But the point is, if you're doing it the right way, there's always a pivot. And the pivot typically involves reaching out to the contacts, the relationships, talking it through, talking it over with the other people who have been on a similar journey to you. What's working for them? Could I come alongside? Need me to partner up with anything? What opportunities are you looking at? And if you take that vantage point, the pivot vantage point, instead of saying, oh no, this is terrible, it's time to freak out, instead you say, what does this now make possible? Who could I reach out to? The answer is a who, not a how. It's a person, not a strategy. If you start to adopt that mindset, the sky's the limit. And I've seen people pivot their way through some of the craziest scenarios. Typically, a panic pivot only happens, though, if you've gone way too deep and gotten way too vested on just one narrow strategy. Like I see people go all in on selling just one shoe brand on Amazon, for example, and they go deep. I've known people doing 6 figures a month of just one shoe brand on Amazon. And then they show up and lose their minds when for some reason that source is no longer available or that brand decides to gate some sellers and they just blame e-commerce. No, it's not e-commerce that's the problem. It's the fact that you didn't diversify, you didn't build relationships, you didn't learn how to pivot, you didn't build multiple income streams, you ignored a lot of the lessons around here. Nowhere do we teach you to go 100 miles deep on one little tiny narrow niche topic on one of these big boy websites, because that's just too thin of a structure. I mean, imagine building this beautiful, we used to have Tinker toys as a kid, or whatever, Legos or whatever you want. But imagine building this beautiful structure on one tiny little thin support beam that goes up and down and supports it. Like, all someone has to do is knock that one little thing and the whole thing falls apart. You don't want that. You want a low to the ground, spread out, hard to destroy structure. That's what multiple income streams is supposed to look like. And maybe you do go a little higher and build a little more risk on some parts of that structure, but there's no way to take the whole thing down. That's the multiple income stream strategy. You don't start there day one, obviously, but that's the goal over time. All right, let's keep it moving. That was multiple income streams. Again, if you find these kind of topics interesting, go get the book, Silent Sales Machine, available free at silentjimdotcom/free11. Moving along. Number 5, I already hit this one. There's always a way to pivot. So multiple income streams, there's always a way to pivot. I'm going to skip right on to number 6. Be proud to tell your story. That may sound like a weird one, But the people who kind of try to isolate and keep e-commerce as this little side thing they do on the side, it's like, yeah, I drive for Uber, but I don't tell anybody ever. Or, I deliver some groceries for Instacart, but I don't want anyone to really know that's what I do on the side. You don't want to be that way about your income streams or your gigs. Never look at it as just a side gig or a hustle. Never call it a hustle. Don't call anything you do a hustle. Any work you do is serving God's other children, and that is admirable. There's actually a word in Hebrew called avodah. The work that you do is a form of worship to God. No matter what your worldview is, take it seriously. You're serving God's other children. Do it with all your heart. Do it with excellence. Don't ever demean it by calling it a hustle. That's not what it is. It's the way that you're rewarded for serving God's other children. Look at everything you do through that lens and be proud to share with others what you do. Be proud to talk about what your bigger goals are. Call yourself an author if you've always wanted to write a book. Call yourself an e-commerce expert if you sold a few dollars worth of stuff online. Be bold about it. Get on our podcast. That's another great example. If you've got some momentum and success, the number of times I've had people on our show who maybe they've only had their first, $10,000 month selling on Amazon, which is a fairly easy goal to hit if you're serious at all within a reasonable amount of time. And they come on our show and they talk about, well, my story's, I haven't really done a whole lot yet. I mean, I've sold a few things, but, I've learned a few things and here's a few tips and a few strategies, but their personality is on display. They put their name out there. They put their face out there. Beautiful things start to happen. People contact them like, hey, I didn't realize that you live right down the road from me. Yeah, let's get together. I've got a couple of the people. Let's form a little mastermind here locally. Let's talk about e-commerce and Amazon and multiple income streams. And let's get a little community going. The number of times I've seen those things happen because you are willing to put your name, put your face, get it out there, get on our podcast, attend an event, tell your friends and neighbors who you are, what you do. Believe it or not, there's a biblical principle behind this. It comes from the Hebrew tradition of naming yourself after the job you have. That's a Hebrew thing. If you've never heard it before, but you'll probably recognize names like Silverstein, Goldsmith, right? Wasserman, the guy that brings the water to everybody in the village, right? They named themselves after the job function, the way they served God's other children became part of their name, became part of their identity. You need to do the same thing. And I would encourage you. It's a very powerful identity to adopt, to say, yeah, I'm the one that knows how to use the internet creatively to make things happen, right? Adopt that identity, share it openly. You'll be the most interesting person in just about any business setting with that identity. So talk about it boldly, share it boldly. That is a big tip towards building multiple income streams and having long-term security. The opportunities that will fall in your lap, the conversations you'll get into, it's going to open so many doors. So don't look for a single strategy or a single piece of software to be what builds this incredible empire for you. It's you. You are the one at the controls. You need to be perceived and known as, yeah, he's the e-commerce guy. You want people to talk about you that way. So be proud of it. Share it openly. Some people say, well, Jim, I'm more of an introvert. That's not really me. Here's what you got to do. In our family, we have a saying. You need to build a bridge and get over it. I don't care if you're an introvert. It's not a matter of personality type, whether you need to be able to do math or not to be in business. Same thing with this. It's not a matter of personality type, whether you're going to be bold about, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I can do for you. This is the career I'm building. And even if it's a side thing, be bold, talk about it. All right, I'll keep moving on. These are the things that I've seen help people build multiple income streams, very stable businesses online. You don't have to like them. You don't have to believe me, but there's certainly a pattern here, and I've seen it over and over and over again over the course of 20 years. So keep that in mind as you maybe reject some of these concepts. I could just give you a line of 100 people that prove that there's something there. All right, next, there's no magic button. Stop jumping at every shiny object. This is hard. The discipline required to turn off Facebook and to focus only on the things that you're supposed to be doing, to stop doom scrolling and to focus in on educating and tackling your business, that same discipline applies here. You're going to see business ideas popping up and like, well, Jim said multiple income streams, so I'm going to buy this course and that tool and this, and you just find yourself bouncing around. This is probably one of the most common traps I see people fall into is they're just kind of bouncing around from one thing to the next, and this. And as soon as they realize this is hard, like, oh, okay, I thought this was going to be easy. No, it's hard. So I'm going to go find something else that's easy. You can do that for years. And I've seen people do it for a couple decades, and they never put any money in the bank. They just try and try and try and try. New thing, get distracted, put it down, buy a course, read the first page, turn it off, get a refund. You're not going to get anywhere that way. The reason we developed the proven Amazon course strategy called replens, and the reason we're so bullish about it is because, again, low risk, low learning curve. You can earn while you learn. You're ramping into an arena where there's multiple doors of opportunity ahead of you. But you've got to focus in. We call it that period of intense focused effort that you commit. Maybe it's not Amazon replens. Maybe it's something else. I don't care. If it's proven, it's got a track record, it has a large community of people who are succeeding, willing to help you, engaging and talking about the realities of the business, and you can engage in that community, it's a legitimate opportunity, which I'm not aware of a whole lot that meet those parameters, by the way. The reason we have what we have is because it does meet those parameters. That you come into that arena, you ask your questions, you engage, you don't use, I'm shy, I'm an introvert. You never use that as an excuse. You jump in, you give it your focused attention, that period of intense focused effort, which distracts you away. It's an unbalanced way to live for a few weeks, maybe a few months. It's out of balance. But after you get through that period of intense focused effort, you've got a new income stream, and you can begin to attach other streams to it. So what's the lesson here? There is no magic button. There's no shiny business model you're going to find out there where, I hit a few buttons and now the money's flowing in. Don't believe the ads. Don't believe the hype. Every business you'll do requires blood, sweat, tears, risk, work, sacrifice, commitment, grit, relational security, margin in your life. Your spouse is on board. You've got people cheering for you. You've got a community of people who are cheering you on, believing in you. And when you stub your toe and bump your head, they're saying, hey, it's okay, man. Here's how you get around that. You need all these things for any business model that you're going to get into. It's just the way the world works. I didn't make the rules. If business were so easy that you could train monkeys to hit buttons and make money, well, everyone would have a bunch of monkeys hitting buttons, and the opportunity would be dead instantly. We don't teach monkey hitting buttons models here. It requires your creativity, requires testing, requires learning, strategy. Again, blood, sweat, tears, risk, work, sacrifice for anything worth having in life. Your health, your relationships, your marriage. You know these things. You know what's true. So don't fall for the shiny objects. There are no magic buttons out there. Everything worth having is going to take some risk and some work. Same goes for business. Same goes for e-commerce. The nice thing about e-commerce, though, remember the first point I made, the second point I made, you can fail often without losing big because you're trying new things constantly, but the risks are so small. Try new things often. But there's nothing out there that's going to be so simple that it changes your life just because you hit a few buttons. It all requires work to maintain and to grow, right? All right, number 8. You are on a leadership journey. Embrace this. I could spend a whole lot of time. This is a topic of passion for me, but what does that mean, leadership journey? I've kind of alluded to it already. Back on point number 3, relationships will make or break you. What do I mean by a leader in business? You're going to have to delay your own gratification like leaders do. You're going to have to be willing to direct others on how you need things done. You're going to need to be capable of making decisions without a certain future, calculated risks. Should I buy this product or that product, right? You need to be able to reduce things down to a math problem and then make your best effort to go forward, minimizing the risk and maximizing the opportunity. Leaders, the things that leaders do. You can't be passive and just wait for good business to happen to you. Forrest Gump, the movie, if you've seen it, if you haven't, it's probably worth a watch. He just kind of stumbles his way into these multi-million-dollar opportunities that slap him in the face. Yeah, funny movie, entertaining movie, but that's not how the world works. Success in business is always an intentional, focused, starts with risk, delayed gratification. You don't know if it's going to work out or not, but you put the time, effort, and energy in, and then in the end, you see the rewards, you see the results. That's how the world actually works. You're on a leadership journey. You got to start acting and thinking like a business owner, like a leader. You're not just going to stumble into one day, well, yesterday I was in debt and making really bad decisions, but today I have a lot of money because random circumstance X happened to me. That's not how the world works. And you know these things. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But the more intentional you are about working on you, the more intentional you are about being the best version of you, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, you're going to have a huge advantage in business. You just are. It's very rare for me to see people who are ridiculously unhealthy physically, who are thriving financially. Right? There's a good book, The Holistic You, by my good friends, Rabbi Daniel and Susan Lappin. I just happened to have it. I didn't know I was going to reference here, but pick up a copy of that. The Holistic You by Rabbi Daniel Lappin and Susan. Good friends. We're doing some cool projects with them. They've been a keynote speaker at our events. But it talks about this concept of faith, family, friendships, fitness, and finance, the 5 Fs, and how they're all kind of intertwined. And if you're completely ignoring one of those areas, it's going to have a negative impact on the others. If you're letting your diet slide or your health slide, or you're ignoring all friends and relationships, the other areas will be dramatically impacted. And the opposite is true as well. To the degree that you're really good at any of those areas, it's going to spill over into the ones where maybe you're weaker or paying less attention. So but there's 5 areas of life you need to be focused on to be a true leader, to be successful. You are on a leadership journey. You're not going to stumble your way into hitting a few of the right buttons to building a sustainable new lifestyle. It just won't happen. All right, we only got 2 more to go, and we're going to wrap this one up. I've already mentioned number 9 several times today. Only do the things that only you can do. Now, let me educate you a little bit more on what that means, because sometimes people think, well, that means I never have to put tape on a box. No, once you have a profitable system in place and you've got an established system, now you train and turn that over to someone else, and they put the tape on the box. You don't start off day one saying, well, I never want to sweep a floor. I never want to touch a box. I never want to touch box tape. I don't ever want to go to a store. I don't ever want to buy anything. I don't want to get on any websites. Don't want to have to set up a business account. No, you're going to have to do some things first. You have to learn the system. You're going to have to have a period of intense focused effort learning some new things. But once that's set up and you see the profits coming in, you can give up a part of that profit so that you stop doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You give to someone else those tasks that they could be doing for $3 or $4 an hour if they're in the Philippines and it's a virtual task, instead of it being on your desk. So now it's a little less profitable of a system for you, but you've got people who their only job is their little piece of the business, and they get really good at it, really focused to become better at it than you ever were. And now you're actually making more profits doing only the things that only you can do, which with an Amazon reselling business isn't much. We've got a great number of people in our community where their role is to check the numbers. That's it. They built a system, put good people in place. It's a machine. They can turn it over to someone else if they wanted to. They could sell it if they wanted to. You're building a machine. So you're only doing the things that only you can do once you've built a profitable system and put other good people in place. Then you start chipping away at that list of things that you think you're the one that has to do it. And sometimes people will say, well, Jim, I really enjoy putting tape on boxes. Okay, build a system, automate it, hire people to do that for you. Then on the weekends, when you're spending time with family, break out the boxes and put tape on it and have your fun little box tape party if you want to. But I'm teaching you how to build a system, a multiple income stream machine that supports you, builds the future of your dreams. So don't say, well, I'm going to give up the parts I don't like. No, you give up the parts that someone else could be doing at a reasonable cost that allows the machine to continue to function profitably, freeing up your time and your creativity and your energy. That's how you get multiple income streams, regardless of which pieces you like and don't like. It's irrelevant to the conversation. I spend a lot of time on this in the Silent Sales Machine book. Again, silentjimdotcom/free11. Go check it out. Number 10. This is a good one. I'm going to wrap it up pretty quickly here, though, because I've got another appointment coming up. This turned into a longer episode than I thought it might, but you need to follow profits, not your passions. I've made podcast episodes in the past about this topic. Sometimes that word profit just hits us wrong. We're like, oh no, profit is bad, or just pursuing profits it's so transactional and impersonal. No, remember, profit is just evidence that you served some of God's other children really well. And how do we know? Because they gave up some of those little green pieces of paper. Some people call them thank you notes. Some people call it money. They're willing to give them up for the products and the services that you provided. And no one twisted their arm to do it. So you know that they were grateful. So you served others well. You made some money. Pursue that. Pursue serving others with excellence instead of saying, well, I want to pursue my passion. 18th century Roman poetry is my passion. How can I monetize that? You may or may not be able to. God bless you if you can. I hope it works out great for you. But if you start your business plan with what you want on your terms, when you feel like doing it, so you can have what you want and only do the things that you want to do when you want to do them, that's a lot of you focus, right? Don't build your business around that. Build your business around serving unmet need in the marketplace. And in your hobby time and your side, yeah, pursue the stuff that you enjoy doing. That's great. If it monetizes, beautiful. Don't make that your business plan, however, because this modern psychology will tell you this. It's a thousands and thousands of year principle in the Bible is one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. I mean, you've heard around Christmas time, the better to give than to receive. If you start serving others with excellence, it doesn't matter what the job is. It doesn't matter what the job description is. It doesn't matter what routine that you find yourself doing, if you're passionate about it or not. As soon as people line up to hand you certificates of gratitude, you will become very passionate about that thing that you're doing. The passion will follow the actions. No matter what you're doing, if people are lined up to give you money to thank you for doing it, you will become passionate about that activity 100% of the time, no exceptions. It's the way that we're wired by God. It's human nature. So don't set out trying to fulfill your passions. Set out trying to meet unmet marketplace needs, which is one of the reasons why we love starting people with the Amazon replens model, because there's a lot of unmet shelf space out there, and you can get your kids involved and they can help pack the boxes, and you can talk about the other families that you're helping and saving them time so they don't have to go to the store. They can order online and it comes right to their door. So this toy that we're packing right now, it's a great lesson for your kids, by the way. This toy that we're packaging up right now, we got 10 of them and we're sending them to Amazon. 10 kids are going to have a beautiful, fun surprise, maybe Christmas party. Maybe it's going to be a birthday. Maybe it's a surprise gift because they've been working really hard to help their mommy, right? You can have those fun conversations and imagine the other families. You're going to get passionate about selling random widgets to strangers. You're going to enjoy the process. Don't believe me? There's a whole bunch of us in a Facebook group. That's what we do as our primary income. And it leads to other great opportunities and other doors that open. Well, this is an episode that you might want to listen to again at some point. If you find yourself wanting to pass it along to someone else as well, to hopefully challenge them and encourage them. It's based on over 2 decades of success with thousands of students in our community. If you want to talk to us, we'd love to get on the phone call with you and have a conversation, half-hour consultation about where you're at right now and where you're trying to get based on some of these principles. Let's talk. I take some of those calls, got some consultants on our team that'll take some of those calls. Maybe it's just free resources that you need. Let's connect. We'll give you a shove in the right direction. Maybe you're ready to step in and spend $500 or $1,000 or so and start to prove this thing out. Prove an Amazon course, maybe all you need. Maybe you got some other ideas you want to kick around. Maybe you're ready for some one-on-one hand-holding and some coaching with someone on our team. We've got 60 great coaches on our team, approximately 60, who have built beautiful businesses using these strategies. They've set aside a little time each week to handhold, to mentor, to care for, to speak into the life of the great people who come to know, like, and trust us around here, and to go on this leadership, business building journey with you. We'll get very technical and detailed if we need to. We'll talk about other stuff if we need to. We've just got some really good humans, some really good leaders on our team who'd love to go with you on that journey. Maybe that's something you want to talk to us about. Regardless, get on our schedule. Go to silentjim.com/book a call, all one word, book a call, and grab a slot. Let's have a conversation. Or you can text us anytime. There's a phone number on that page as well you can use to text us in the US. silentjim.com/book a call. All right, we've covered a lot of great resources today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed putting it together. If you did enjoy this, but you find yourself thinking, well, I wouldn't mind hearing from a few of these students that have done this. Good news. You can scroll back in time. If you're new around here and you didn't know this, scroll back in time and just listen to some of the dozens of recent episodes where we've interviewed the successful students who are following these strategies in building beautiful businesses. We actually have hundreds of episodes if you scroll back, because we're coming up on 1,000 episodes of this show. Most of them are interviews with successful students just like that. So thanks for hanging out with me today. It's been a pleasure sharing these concepts with you. Please let me know what you thought. Leave us a review on iTunes. We love to see those 5-star reviews pop in on iTunes. If you found some benefit today, would you please do me that favor? Or just send some friends to silentjim.com, tell them to check out the podcast and let you know what you think. So maybe you guys can get together and discuss some of the episodes, or jump into our Facebook group, have a conversation about any of the episodes there as well. Don't be shy. just because it's a big group. Don't be shy. Don't let that keep you from building the business of your dreams because you have questions and you don't ask them. Get in there, engage, contribute. Let's do this together. We're rooting for you. We can't wait to see what beautiful business you're going to build, and we'd love to be a part of your journey. Thanks for joining me today for Silent Sales Machine Radio. We'll have another great episode for you very soon. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on today's episode. Before I let you go, let's spend a couple minutes with a real good friend of mine, Ashlyn Haddon. She is our all things insurance for e-commerce sellers guru. And it's been a while since we checked in with her, but she is helping so many sellers in our community for a few dollars a month insure their business. And Amazon actually requires this if you didn't know after you hit a certain level, but it's never too soon to insure your business for a few dollars a month. Ashlyn's the one that can help you. It's ecom.insure, right, Ashlyn?
That's right.
Welcome. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me. So you said it's never too early to get insurance, but it is too late to get insurance sometimes.
Absolutely, it is. You're right.
So like you said, Amazon does require the insurance. Currently, once you hit $10,000 in 3 consecutive months, they require that you have a general liability policy with product liability. So the difference of those is general liability is going to be what you do or say as a business. So let's say Jim decides to sell this lotion, and he says, well, this lotion is going to make your hands silky and smooth. And you buy this and you say, well, nope, it doesn't really make my hands silky and smooth. Then I'm going to sue Jim for false advertisement. That's going to be your general liability.
Fair enough.
Then if I put this lotion on and it breaks my skin out, my skin starts peeling and breaking and I have to go to the hospital, that's going to be product liability. So Amazon wants you to cover both your general liability, what you do or say as a business, and the product liability, which is what your products do to harm someone else.
And this is even if it's not your product, it's just a product you're selling through your account, through someone else's brand, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the end, if you're just reselling somebody else's stuff, you're probably not going to be responsible for $1 million lawsuit. But what you are going to be responsible for is defending yourself. And sometimes those attorney fees can be much more expensive than the actual settlement's going to be. Here in Indiana, product liability, the average for an attorney is $575 an hour. I can give you a whole entire policy for a year for about that same price.
Right.
So you kind of have to weigh your options. Is it worth, making an attorney rich at $575 an hour, or just getting a policy to cover those what ifs?
Very good. So I know I'm always loved whenever I talk to you or some of the other policy legal experts or insurance, like what are some of the funny things you're seeing right now that may not be on our radar right now?
So a lot of people think about insurance, when they need to file a claim for the, product liability or general liability. But right now we're seeing in this whole online world a lot of fraudulent transfers. And what that is let's say you're working with a wholesaler overseas, and they send you an invoice for $15,000. And the invoice looks the same as it always has for the last 5 years. So you go online, you put your information in, you wire the funds, and you never get your product, and you never get your product, and you never get your product. And you start asking questions, and then you realize you've wired the funds to someone else that wasn't your supplier.
You fell for a phishing scheme, in other words.
You have fell for a phishing scheme. Mm-hmm. So in the insurance world, we call it fraudulent transfer. What they're doing is hacking into your system and replacing that invoice that looks the same all the time with a different, sometimes routing and account number. And you're wiring those funds someplace else and have no idea that you've been phished. And most policies don't cover that unless you have that endorsement on your policy. So you could be out thousands and thousands of dollars, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
And
so
you could have covered that for
coverage.
What kind of I'm assuming that's a little addendum you can add on to your policy. Like how much is that for?
So it depends on how much coverage you want, but it's maybe a couple $100 for $10,000 to $20,000 in coverage. So it's really not that expensive. You add it to your current policy. So that's just something that people don't think about. But when you're buying stuff online, it's very, very easy to do.
Paying a lot of invoices and have someone else in charge of, accounts payable. And yeah, those things can happen. We came
Exactly.
super close to doing that one time ourselves, as much as I thought we had everything locked down.
Yep.
That someone just about really fooled us. Somehow they got access to, a bill that we normally do pay. And it came in a little bigger
Exactly.
than usual, and we just about paid it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's the exact same amount. Sometimes, I mean, it looks so real.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. It's scary real.
That's a great tip. I didn't even realize you could insure against that, or at least I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
I'm married to an insurance expert. She studied insurance in college, so when I run it past my wife, she always knows these things, but I just don't. I'm busy doing business. So
And
yeah, I
you
love
guys
having
have been
a
through a
policy.
lot on insurance. So you guys are pretty smart about it.
We do our best. Well, what else?
Yeah.
What else are you seeing? Anything? Any interesting stories?
Yeah. So the other thing that we're seeing right now is kind of some issues with bundling. Back in the day when we all first started this insurance with bundling, they were kind of like, hey, if it's just, you're just putting people's items together, that's going to be one classification. But now we're seeing a lot of people who take the private label item and then they put it with somebody else's stuff. So let's say the example of like the chip clip in the bag of chips.
Right, which is going away rapidly.
Which is going away.
I really hope, but they're still out there, oddly enough.
Right.
Sure, but I got your example.
Yeah. And let's say like somebody gets hurt on the bag of chips. Now you're getting pulled into that lawsuit again to defend yourself. If it's Doritos is getting pulled into that lawsuit, but since you had that private label brand in there with you, you're getting pulled into. So I think that's one tip that people forget is you can be sued for other people's stuff all the time. It really doesn't matter if it's yours, if it's theirs, if it's bundled, if it's commingled, like whatever it is, you're going to get pulled into that lawsuit.
I remember my business college professor saying, anybody can sue anyone for anything, anytime. It's like the real expense becomes defending yourself. And thankfully, we've never been sued for anything ever. In my 22 years, never. But that doesn't mean I don't have the insurance that's there in place in case it ever does happen.
Exactly.
Very good. Well, that's two great examples. It's always good to see you. And the last thing I think we could end here, you're going to be at our event in May, right?
Yes.
Thank you for sponsoring again this year. It's going to be great to see you.
Absolutely. I'll have the new book to hand out, and I've got some conference journals to hand out.
I've got my copies. They're on the shelf back here somewhere.
Yeah. So make sure you swing by my booth.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ashlyn Haddon, if you want to visit our website, there's a link in the show notes. She can help you with all your e-commerce and business insurance. And you've expanded outside of that even a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, we've always done kind of home, auto, and life insurance to try to be the one-stop shop for everybody.
Very good.
But we've also expanded into more of the alternative products. So we're looking at people who are selling supplements and beauty brands and people in Michigan who are allowed to sell alternative products. Those types of
alternative products. Thank you for
alternative products.
My podcast banned on several platforms. That's awesome. I love it. Well, yeah. So we're going to see you at the Proven Conference. For those who don't know what that is yet, where you been? But theprovenconference.com is the website. Ashlyn's website is in the show notes. It's a strange one. ecom.insure, right? Not .com, but .insure, which I didn't even know was a thing until I heard you had that. So ecom.insure, Ashlyn Haddon. Thank you so much for serving our community for so long with such excellence.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to see your business thriving. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Talk to you soon.